But if you were to listen to the debate, and frankly how some of you went after this bill, you'd think that this thing was some Bolshevik plot.
Thank you, John. Now I'd like to open up for questions.
Let me say this about health care and the health care debate, because I think it also bears on a whole lot of other issues. If you look at the package that we've presented, and there's some stray cats and dogs that got in there that we were eliminating. We were in the process of eliminating. For example, we said from the start that it was going to be important for us to be consistent in saying to people, if you want to keep the health insurance you got, you can keep it. That you're not going to have anybody getting in between you and your doctor in your decision making. And I think that some of the provisions that got snuck in might have violated that pledge. And so we're in the process of scrubbing this and making sure that it's tight. No, look, I mean, I'm just saying, I know you guys disagree, but if you look at the facts of this bill, most independent observers would say this is actually what many Republicans, it is similar to what many Republicans proposed to Bill Clinton when he was doing his debate on health care. Mike?
Dr. Tom Price from Georgia, and then we'll have one more after that if your time permits, Mr. President.
You know, I'm having fun.
Okay.
This is great.
So are we.
You have repeatedly said, most recently at the State of the Union, that Republicans have offered no ideas and no solutions.
I said I welcome those ideas that you'll provide.
President, multiple times from your administration there have come statements that Republicans have no ideas and no solutions.
Tom, look, I have to say, you can't structure a bill where suddenly 30 million people have coverage and it costs nothing. Because otherwise, we're going to be selling the American people a bill of goods. I mean, the easiest thing for me to do on the health care debate would have been to tell people that what you're going to get is guaranteed health insurance, lower your costs, all the insurance reforms.
Are all the legislative proposals
I understand.
that were
I've
offered
actually read your bills.
throughout 2009.
I understand.
And so rest assured the summary document you received is backed up by precisely the kind of detailed legislation that Speaker Pelosi and your administration have been busy ignoring for 12 months.
Mike, wait, hold on a second.
Well,
No. Hold on a second, guys. You know, Mike, if there's uniform opposition because the Republican caucus doesn't get 100%, then it's going to be hard to get a deal done. That's because that's not how democracy works.
Now, here's an observation. Over the past year, in my view, they've really been stiff-armed by Speaker Pelosi. Now, I know you're not in charge of that chamber, but there really is this dynamic of, frankly, being shut out. Here's the question. Moving forward, I think all of us want to hit the reset button on 2009.
I mean, we've got to be careful about what we say about each other sometimes, because it boxes us in ways that makes it difficult for us to work together, because our constituents start believing us. They don't know sometimes this is just politics, what you guys, or folks on my side do sometimes. But on the specifics, I think both sides can take some blame for a sour climate on Capitol Hill. What I can do maybe to help is to try to bring Republican and Democratic leadership together on a more regular basis with me. That's, I think, a failure on my part, is to try to foster better communications, even if there's disagreement. And I will try to see if we can do more of that this year. That's on the sort of the general issue.
Will that new budget, like your old budget, triple the national debt and continue to take us down the path of increasing the cost of government to almost 25% of our economy?
All right.
That's the question, Mr. President.
Jim, with all due respect, I've just got to take this last question as an example of how it's very hard to have the kind of bipartisan work that we're going to do, because the whole question was structured as a talking point for running a campaign. What is true is we came in with $8 trillion worth of debt over the next decade. It had to do with the fact that in 2000, when there was a budget surplus of $200 billion, you had a Republican administration and a Republican Congress, and we had 2 tax cuts that weren't paid for. You had a prescription drug plan, the biggest entitlement plan, by the way, in several decades, that was passed without it being paid for. You had 2 wars that were done through supplementals. And then you had $3 trillion projected because of the lost revenue of this recession. That's $8 trillion. Now, we increased it by $1 trillion. The problem is twofold. One is that depending on how it's structured, if recipients are suddenly getting a plan that has their reimbursement rates going like this, but health care costs are still going up like that, then over time, the way we're saving money is essentially by capping what they're getting relative to their costs. Now, I just want to point out, and this brings me to the second problem. When we made a very modest proposal as part of our package, our health care reform package, to eliminate the subsidies going to insurance companies for Medicare Advantage, we were attacked across the board by many on your aisle for slashing Medicare. No, but here's my point. If the main question is going to be what do we do about Medicare costs, any proposal that Paul makes will be painted, factually, from the perspective of those who disagree with it, as cutting benefits over the long term. Paul, I don't think you disagree with that, that there is a political vulnerability to doing anything that tinkers with Medicare. And that's probably the biggest savings that are obtained through Paul's plan. That's why I say, if we're going to frame these debates in ways that allow us to solve them, then we can't start off by figuring out, A, who's to blame, B, how can we make the American people afraid of the other side? And unfortunately, that's how our politics works right now. But that's how we operate. It's all tactics. And it's not solving problems. And so the question is, at what point can we have a serious conversation about Medicare and its long-term liability, or a serious question about a serious conversation about Social Security, or a serious conversation about budget and debt, in which we're not simply trying to position ourselves politically. But I'm committed to doing it. You know, I've already gone over time.
He's gone way over, gentlemen.
But I'll be happy to take your question, Congressman, offline.
Yeah.
You can give me a call.
Gentlemen,
all right. Thank you, everybody. God
thank
bless
the President of the United
God bless
States.
the United States of America. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate you.